Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'enai u'tuma me'afafa.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzelem Elohim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani ben chori.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch She'amar, page 164. Baruch She'amar ve'aya olam, Baruchu, Baruch oseh bereshit. Continue with the Ashrei. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yalelu chaseda.
Ashrei am she'kach lo,
168.
Ashrei am she'Adonai Elohav.
Tila leDavid, Adonai melech, v'avarcha shimcha leolam va'ed.
B'chol yom avarchecha, halela shimcha leolam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai u'mehulal me'od, v'bigdulato en cheker.
Toledo yeshebach masecha, ugvurotecha yagitu.
Hadar kevod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha.
Be'ezuz norotecha yomeru, ugdulatecha asperena.
Zecher aktucha yabiu, v'tzidchacha yiralenu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim ugdol chased.
Tov Adonai l'kol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, גבורתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני אדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל העמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכיפופים.
עיני כל אליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעתו.
פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסים בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיע.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל הרשעים ישמיע.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פיו, יברא כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה. הללויה. Chatzi Kaddish you can find on page 176. יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבו.
אמן.
בעלמא דברה חירותיה וימליך מלכותיה בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
אמן.
יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירומם ונשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה
בריחו
לילה ולילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו
We turn to page 178 for the Barakhu and we rise. Please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hapoteach lanu sha'arei rachamim, umeir einei hamchakim lishchato. Yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Or olam beotzar chayim, orot meofel, amar vayechi. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Marabu ma'asecha Adonai, gulam b'chochma asita, malah ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'orei or she'asita yafa'aru chasela, or chadash al tzion ta'ir v'niskeh chulanu mehera le'oro, baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha'me'orot.
ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר במו ישראל באהבה. בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, תהייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר מוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We continue on page 194. From Egypt you redeemed us, Adonai our God, and from the slave house you set us free. For this the people who felt your love exalted you, and the ones you found precious sang hymns of praise, blessing, and thanks. To the living God who reigns forever, high and exalted, inspiring wonder, who humbles the proud and raises the lowly, who frees the captive, redeems the oppressed, and sustains the poor. God responds to the cry of our people, their prayer in time of need. Sing praise to God Most High, most blessed source of blessing, as Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang this joyous song to you.
Oh חינומך יהודה וישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני
Please rise.
ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים ולברך החיים וגודלנו בספר החיים עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני אין אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני בחיי המתים אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל מחבר מים בבשר מחבר מלכים ברחמים רבים צורק הורים ואלוהים ומהיר הסורים ומקיים עולתו משלי עבר עיר האור אבל גדולות
Scientists believe that a catastrophic volcano erupted about 75,000 years ago in what is now Indonesia. It was purported to have drastically altered the Earth's climate, and almost all human beings were killed off. Just a few thousand humans survived the volcano's aftermath, and we are all descended from those people. If true, if in fact not long ago in evolutionary time, the human race was reduced to several thousand of us, we learn two important lessons. First, we are interconnected. We all emerged from the same period, shaped by the same forces. Each of us cries, laughs, rejoices, mourns. We respond in the same way, no matter what our background or the color of our skin. Second, we are all survivors of catastrophe. There were periods in our evolutionary past when the human race barely clung to the tree of life. But we did survive. And we are here today, beaten up, scarred, but determined to continue the quest. How did we survive? More than any other creature, we are social animals. We took care of each other. We comforted one another. We cheered each other up in bad times and celebrated together in good times. If you sit down at set of sun and you count the acts that you have done, and counting, find one self-denying deed, one word that eased the heart of him who heard, one glance most kind that fell like sunshine where it went, then you may count that day well spent. But if through the livelong day you've cheered no heart by yea or nay, if through it all you've done nothing that you can trace that brought the sunshine to one face, no act most small that helped some soul and nothing cost, then count that day as worse than lost. Unetana Tokev, page 208.
וסופר ומונה, ותזכור כל הנשכחות, ותפתח את ספר הזיכרונות, ומאליו יקרא, וחותם יד כל הרם בו.
Let us proclaim the sacred power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign is a reign of truth. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal, you record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten, And when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself. For every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other.
Shofar gadol yehitaka v'kol dmamavaka yishama ומלאכים יחפשון וכילולדו יוחזון ויאמרו הנה יום הדין לפקוד על צבא מרון בדין כי לא יזכו בניך בדין וכל באי עולם יעברון לפניך Even moron kevakarat roeyedro kevakarat roeyedro mavir tzonotachachito ken tavir vetispor vetimne ותפקוד נפש כל חי, ותחתוך קצבה לכל בריאה, ותכתוב את גזר דינם.
And so a great shofar will cry Decay, and a still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, Behold, the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you like sheep before their shepherd, as a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff. You count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments.
מגפה מי וחניקה ומי וסקילה מי ינוח ומי ינוח
Of Yom Kippur, it is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who exalted? Through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. You are everything that we praise you for, slow to anger, quick to forgive. You do not wish the death of sinners, but urge them to return from their ways and live. Until the day of death, you wait for them. You accept them at once if they return. Since you created us, you know our impulses. We are but flesh and blood. We who are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. We wear out our lives to get our bread, like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade, a shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. But for you, ever-living sovereign, time has no limits. Your presence, unbounded by days and years, is everywhere. A glorious mystery none can decipher. Your name is worthy of you, and you are worthy of your name. And our name you have linked with yours. We rise for the Kedusha on page 218.
direnu, Adonai, Adonai, Adonenu, Marir, Marir, Shimecha, Bechol haaretz.
Your greatness, Lador Vador, from generation to generation, and to the end of time, we will affirm your holiness. Our God, your praise shall ever be on our lips, for your power is boundless, sovereign, and holy. Please be seated. We continue on page 236.
Eloheinu veloi avotenu v'imotenu, kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, צווינו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam ve'ahava
Tamid avodat Yisrael.
We continue on page 244. Our God, divine presence whose path our ancestors walked, bless us now with words first bestowed on Israel in the time of Moses and Aaron, the threefold blessing given us through Torah that joins our hopes with theirs. May God bless you and protect you. May you receive the light of God's kindness and grace. May God bestow favor upon you and give you peace. May it be so.
Sim shalom. Tova uvracha ba'olam. Hein v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Barakhu Avinu. Barakhu Avinu. ספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה ייזכר וניפטר והלב עלינו בכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ושלום ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום
Do we still know how to speak with each other? Do we still know how to argue, to debate, to persuade? Can we still learn from one another? Or is even the thought of engaging with someone who disagrees with you passé, so 20th century, so quaint, so European, so colonial, so patriarchal? Do we still know how to study? Do we attend school to open our minds to new ideas or to reinforce what we think we already know? Do teachers inspire us to think freely, or do they seek to impose a dogma, a creed, one acceptable view? Do we seek out other opinions? Or do we spend all of our time in the echo chamber with those who already agree? There's a fascinating statement in the Talmud. Tanu Rabbanan, our sages taught, Al Shlosha HaKadosh Barakhu Boche Alehem Bechol Yom. There are three types of people for whom the Holy One weeps every day. Al she'efshar la'asok betorah ve'eno osek. God weeps for the one who is able to engage in study and does not. Al she'efshar la'asok betorah ve'osek. God weeps for the one who is unable to engage in study and nonetheless does. Ve'al parnas hamidgaya latzibur. And God weeps for a leader who lords it over the community. The Talmud doesn't elaborate on these three types of people. Who are they? Are they related? How is an arrogant ruler connected with one who studies but shouldn't, and one who doesn't study but should? What is so egregious about their behavior that it causes God to weep every day? I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you. Let me address each of the three categories of people. 1, God weeps for those who are able to engage in Torah and do not. Learning is among the highest of Jewish values. The study of Torah exceeds all other commandments our sages teach. Study day and night, the Bible commands. God weeps for those who are able to engage in study, who have both the intellectual capacities and the opportunities, and do not. Why? Because the stakes are so extraordinarily high. Ideas, values, rational thought, intellectual investigation, evidence. These determine both our individual and communal well-being. The rabbis debate what is more important, study or deeds. They conclude that study is more important because it leads to deeds. Deeds might be the most important outcome, but we cannot get there without learning. Ideas precede action as lightning precedes thunder. First, the bolt of thought, then the rumble of action. Philosophy determines policy. The better our ideas, the better our deeds. The more just our ideas, the more just our deeds. La'asok b'Torah, to immerse in Torah, is not just to pick up a book. Not that there's anything wrong with that. In Judaism, there is a specific way to learn. The sages meant a method of investigation driven by reason, debate, argument, persuasion, logic, evidence, proof. The assumption that no one person, one group, one political party, one class, one association, one professor, one rabbi has a monopoly on truth is at the center of the Jewish tradition. The Jewish way, taught and retaught for thousands of years, is that we grow, we get smarter, we improve by learning from and interacting with those who disagree. Jewish tradition celebrates when people debate in good faith, when they differ with each other in pursuit of truth. Kol machloket shehi l'shem shamayim sofa le'itkayem, the sages teach. Every disagreement that is for the sake of heaven, in pursuit of understanding, is destined to endure. Jews do not avoid a debate. We actively seek it out. We do not take offense if you disagree. To the contrary, we are offended if you too readily agree. There is a remarkable intellectual humility at the heart of Judaism, an acknowledgement that without you, I cannot learn. And without me, you cannot understand. We need each other. This classically Jewish approach to learning is also the fundamental assumption of Western liberalism. It is one reason Jews do so well in free societies. Free inquiry, free expression, the ability to freely research and promote a broad spectrum of opinions is at the center of the Western tradition. Medieval authorities persecuted Galileo. The Enlightenment celebrated scientific inquiry, even if it conflicted with religious authorities or angered powerful establishments. It's extraordinarily gratifying to me that our tradition practiced and preached intellectual pluralism from the beginning, and that our own sages preceded the giants of the liberal Enlightenment by thousands of years. Judaism is emphatic. Persuasion, vigorous challenge, openness to debate, a willingness to reconsider when new evidence emerges. These are the tools of the intellectual trade and the prerequisites for social progress and communal decency. Reflexive dismissal of another opinion insults us. Who is wise? Ben Zoma asked. One who learns from all people. Jews argue over everything. Our sacred texts explode with disagreement. You can hardly even open one page of Talmud without encountering numerous debates on seemingly minor matters. The Talmud records 316 separate disputes between the schools of Hillel and Shammai. Jewish tradition eventually resolved most of these disputes in favor of the school of Hillel. And the Talmud explains, on what basis do we prefer one view over another? The law follows the rulings of the school of Hillel because they were modest. They studied not only their own rulings, but those of Shammai as well. The school of Hillel was so humble that they mentioned their rulings, the rulings of their opponents, before their own. They were so eager to contemplate and analyze the other side's opinions because they knew that by doing so, it would strengthen their own ideas. So if in most cases Hillel's approach prevailed, why even record Shammai's views? First, as an example, if the greatest of the great sages were open to counter arguments, you too should keep an open mind. Do not think you are always right. Maybe someone else has something to teach you. Second, Shammai's views were preserved to leave room for future generations to make up their own minds. No solution is good for all times. Every problem lends itself to additional problems that require fresh thinking. If we preserve minority views, future generations will learn from them and perhaps even accept them. Third, to demonstrate how we can argue with each other and still remain united. We can have unity without uniformity. Only the insecure are afraid of challenge. To paraphrase Churchill, a little mouse of disagreement crawls into the room and even the mightiest potentates are thrown into a panic. They are afraid of the workings of the human mind. The traditional Jewish approach to learning, investigation, and ideas is this. Do you recognize that the other side also has something important to say? Is your mind open to research and persuasion? Do you pursue principle or power? Are your disputes for the sake of heaven or personal ambition? Are you interested in unity, in preserving the integrity of society? Do you pursue the common good? Or are you busy delegitimizing the other side? God weeps for those who have the potential la'asok b'Torah to engage in this kind of study, but do not. Institutions of learning, teachers, thought leaders are critical to shaping communal character. When they no longer commit to and insist upon the liberal discipline, we are in trouble. 2, God weeps for those who are unable to engage in Torah and do. Why would God weep for those who are unable to study, who are incapable, but make the effort nonetheless? We should praise them for trying, since learning is so fundamental to human life. One commentator explains that the sages were not referring to those who do not have the intellectual capacities, but still do their best to learn. For them, God weeps bechiyah shel simcha, tears of joy. Rather, what the sages meant was the type of people who are incapable of intellectual pluralism, but study and teach nonetheless. They populate the great academies of study and learning. Some people might be brilliant, but they are arrogant. They think they know everything. They consider you worthless, either a moron or hopelessly immoral. They cavalierly cancel and dismiss. Every time I publish an article, every time I do something that's in the news, I don't even read the comments, but from time to time when I have 5 or 10 minutes, I like to read the reactions of people. Oh my God. The cesspool that is the internet, the reactions, completely intolerant, completely unable to receive any thought that differs from their own. Now, some of these people might be brilliant, but they use their intelligence not as a tool of persuasion, but a cudgel of intimidation and capitulation. One of the disputes between Hillel and Shammai lasted for 3 years. 3 years. Back and forth they went, arguments and counter-arguments. Finally, a heavenly voice descended to the earth, proclaiming, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. These are both the words of the living God. It is a machloket l'shem shamayim. It is a debate for the sake of heaven, for the pursuit of truth and understanding. And even if one opinion is eventually accepted, both reflect the words of the living God, because both sides were sincere, open, honest, tolerant, and intellectually pluralistic. Imagine in our contemporary culture wars that a partisan from one side would concede that the arguments on the other side have merit. You would lose your place in the tribe. Social media would excommunicate you. Your peers would turn on you. If you were in an academic institution or a newspaper, they might seek to remove you, fire you, or force you to confess transgression, the 21st century version of the church's persecution of Galileo. God weeps for these people. They are dangerous. There is coercion in their character, domination in their disposition. Jewish lore describes the last 2 Jews in a small village. They hated each other and bickered constantly. Eventually, one of the 2 died. And when the survivor was asked how it felt to be the last Jew in the village, he responded, "Finally, I can run the community as I want." We must be careful of those who want to run the community as they and they alone want, who tell us with certainty that they have discovered the answer to everything. There's something fearful about them. They simmer with the flames of hubris and boil with the heat of certainty that liquefies reason. Even the most brilliant of us see the world only in fragments. People prone to all-inclusive theories are not usually in search of truth. They are in search of themselves. For this reason, Judaism warns us not to vest too much power in one centralized authority. The biblical tower of conformity came crashing down. God scattered the people of Babel, instilling different languages and customs. It's a cautionary tale. God does not want uniformity. God wants a cacophony of voices, Babel. God wants diversity. Freedom cannot long endure without the free exchange of ideas. The liberal task is to expand freedom. Build a tower of oppressive censorship, whether imposed from the outside or self-imposed, and freedom will eventually collapse. If liberty means anything at all, wrote George Orwell, it is the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. Somewhere inside all of us, there is the instinct to dominate and the urge for power. Therefore, we must take great care to temper the reflex to dismiss, to cancel, excommunicate, subjugate, intimidate, especially in institutions devoted to free thought, bastions of the liberal order, like schools, universities, newspapers, publishing houses, the arts, theater, film, culture. We should revel in our differences, arguing loudly with each other how best to live, because diversity is a good thing. It is the lifeblood of liberty. This knee-jerk readiness to censor and cancel leads to authoritarianism. There's only one authority, one politically correct speech, one acceptable language. We know where this leads. We have seen it before. We lived it before. In the horrors of ideologies that were convinced that they and they alone discovered the one solution to the world's problems. They are about the search for power more than the search for truth. One ring to rule them all, one ring to bind them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. All absolutisms are dangerous, whether from the right or from the left. They come from the same place, the same dark hole in the human soul, where the shadows lie. All extremisms are a threat. An extremist mindset ultimately destroys that which it seeks to uphold. To be ultra is to go beyond, wrote Victor Hugo. It is to attack the scepter in the name of the throne. It is to maltreat the thing you support. It is to be the partisan of things, of the point of becoming their enemy. It is to be so very pro that you are con. It would be a boring world and a primitive one if we all walked in lockstep with each other and agreed with each other all the time. There are, of course, limits. Nothing is limitless in human affairs. Only God is without limits. Some views are beyond the pale. I will not dignify anti-Semitism or racism simply because you assert it. But the increasing tendency in 21st century America to affirm one acceptable answer, one legitimate view, is profoundly illiberal, even if it comes from the left. Come, let us reason together, Isaiah urges. Freedom is messy. Healthy societies are full of noise. I remember my visits to the former Soviet Union immediately after the dissolution. There was an eerie quiet on the streets. It was palpable. Suppression is quiet. Freedom is turbulent. Avoid the temptation to diminish, devalue, or disgrace those who disagree with you. It is not the Jewish way. While the articulation of principle may be straightforward, implementation is always complicated, confounding, and complex. Do not assume that those who differ with you on how to reduce poverty, how to preserve and extend civil rights, how to establish the most effective police force, do not assume that those who disagree with you are manifestly and morally malignant, indisputably and incontrovertibly ignorant, or parsimoniously privileged and prejudiced. Fundamentalisms flourish in both religious and secular settings. Some now argue with a straight face that the Enlightenment itself, liberalism itself, science, reason, logic, are constructs imposed on the world by white, European, colonial, patriarchal, and racist societies in order to subjugate others. Now, I need to tell you, when intellectuals voice ideas that strike you as bizarre, they are the wacky ones, not you. As Clive James wrote, when scholarship, academia, and language get beyond shouting distance of ordinary speech and ideas, voodoo is all it is. I'm a liberal. Liberalism is progressive by nature. We believe in change. We believe in persuasion. We believe in reason. We believe that society can improve. We believe in social repair. We are not hopeless and we are not helpless. Generation after generation, brick by brick, we continue to build a more perfect union. There is a troubling temperament in some elements of the contemporary left that we have seen before. They have lost faith in persuasion, consent, and consensus. They believe in breaking things. We must smash, obliterate the system in order to construct a new society. The existing system is beyond repair. That's why parts of the new left are so opposed to Israel. They view the Jewish state through the prism of race and white privilege. Never mind that they are completely ignorant of the fact that most Israeli Jews are what we would call today Jews of color. They are not white, European. They are Semitic, Middle Eastern. And never mind that the descendants of most Israeli Jews were so unprivileged that they fled to Israel, penniless refugees, victims of vicious racism in Europe and harsh oppression by fellow Semites in the Middle East. Do not give in. Do not be intimidated. Fundamentalists, religious and secular, assume that the other side is vapid, filled with unbelievers. They wrap themselves in garments of virtue while presuming that everyone else is morally naked, stripped of values. They clothe themselves in vanity, not virtue, a kind of pubescent self-righteousness. I do not doubt the sincerity, conviction, or sense of duty of parts of the New Left, but these are qualities that, when misguided, become odious. Stand up for yourselves. And I say this to you, students at universities, stand up for yourselves. Kneel before no one. Defy those who demand obedience on pain of excommunication. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. 3, God weeps for leaders who lord it over the community. What do arrogant leaders have to do with the first 2 Talmudic categories? I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you. When those who are uniquely suited to guide intellectual progress do not, and when those who are not suited to guide intellectual progress do, what you get is arrogant, shallow leaders who lord it over the community. Leaders reflect the people. They don't simply pop up out of the blue. They are not aberrations. They emerge from us, our culture, our education, our politics. As the generation, so the leader, the Talmud teaches. The Hebrew word that the sages use is mitga'eh. It implies not only arrogance, but false pride. They puff out their chests, convinced that they are above everyone else. They think they know more than they do. I alone can fix it, they say. I know more than the doctors. I know more than the generals. I am a stable genius. I recruit the best people. I am the only thing standing between the American dream and total anarchy, madness, and chaos. They don't just say these things for political reasons. They sincerely believe them. And because they don't know that they don't know, they are exceedingly dangerous. God weeps not only for the individual leader, but for the community that is led by such individuals. Good leaders do something religious in nature. They appeal to our better angels. They know that human beings emerged from the jungle and that we are always on the cusp of relapse. Wise leaders understand that it does not take much to stimulate our primitive animalistic instincts, and so stimulated, we are capable of a depravity that no other creature on earth can even imagine. The lion tears the zebra to shreds for food. It would never occur to it to waterboard its prey or to shackle it in chains of bondage because of the color of the stripes of its skin, to gas millions of them in the name of the master race of lions. Good leaders seek to elevate us beyond our narrow self-interest and to bind us to a higher cause. They know that it is much easier to destroy than to build. 'Tis easy dropping stones in wells, but who shall get them out? Wrote George Eliot. Jeremiah lamented, Hoi roim me'abdim u'fitzim et son mariti. Woe unto the shepherds who let my flock stray and scatter. It is you, the shepherds, the leaders, the ones who should know better. It is you who lost the sheep and drove my flock away. We brought our leadership on ourselves. We have so devalued science, evidence, logic, facts. We are so intolerant, so dismissive, so eager to cancel the other, that tens of millions of Americans have lost their way. They are unmoored. From both the right and the left, we mock expertise and dismiss science. There are as many anti-vaxxers on the left as the right. Where did we learn that? In school? University? Social media? There are as many conspiracy theorists on the left as on the right. For every right-wing bigot convinced that Jews conspire to control the world, so there are left-wing bigots convinced that Zionists conspire to control the world. For every right-wing radical who boycotts Jewish-owned businesses, so there are left-wing radicals who boycott Israeli-owned businesses. For every right-wing campus agitator canceling Jews from leadership, so there are left-wing campus agitators canceling Jews from leadership. In fact, on campus, canceling Jewish students is probably more prevalent on the left than on the right. Philosophically, these groups may be miles apart, but they share the same intolerant, turbulent, tempestuous temperament. And it often leads them to the same dark place. The outer edges of the left and the right fold together, and they end up with the same hatred of Jews. So many from both the right and the left no longer seek truth and understanding. They seek acceptance, a place in the tribe, shelter from the harsh world outside. If the leader of the tribe tells them that we can kill the coronavirus by ingesting Drano, millions listen. And what they hear is that the doctor knows nothing the medicine man will cure. A country that hauled the world into the 20th century, saved Europe twice, defeated fascism, imperialism, and communism. A great nation, an exceptional nation that practically invented modern technology, cured disease, landed humans on the moon. America, first in science, first in research, first in public health, first in technological innovation. How in the heck did we become an America First nation? The state of American politics today is the result of year after year, decade after decade of intellectual and political neglect. It did not happen overnight. Hosea warned, Ki ruach yizra vesufata yikzoru. They sow the wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind. For years, we have sown the seeds of intolerance. We have allowed the foundations of liberal democracy to crumble. And now, the gathering storm. Emily Dickinson wrote, "Crumbling is not an instance act, a fundamental pause. Dilapidation's processes are organized decays. 'Tis first a cobweb on the soul, a cuticle of dust and elemental rust. Ruin is formal, consecutive, and slow. Fail in an instant, no man did. Slipping is crash's law. We have been slipping for years. Organized decays, consecutive and slow. Cobwebs on the American soul. Sadly, we are paying the price of failing to clear the cuticles of dust and the elemental rust. We can change America. We can reverse its slow decay. But we must be willing to fight for what is right. If we do not summon the resolve, God will weep, and the rest of us will cry for the beloved country. We must be willing to stand up to intimidation from wherever it comes. We must be willing to fight for our principles. We must reject extremism on all sides. We must be willing to vote. All you young people, we must be willing to vote. We must be willing to engage and to keep at it year after year, as crumbling is not an instant act, so rejuvenation is not immediate. Do not lose hope. V'hakimoti alehem ro'im, prophesied Jeremiah. Good shepherds will rise again. They shall tend to the flock with compassion and care. All the lost sheep will return. None will be missing. Keep the faith. The American dream is alive. It is still alive. The torch of liberty will pierce the shadows. We will find the dark grown luminous, the void fruitful. We can do it. America is capable of miraculous regeneration. It is not too late. It is never too late for America. We can change. Franz Kafka wrote a haunting short story called A Little Fable. It's one paragraph long, so I will conclude my remarks by reciting it in full. "Alas," said the mouse, "the world is growing smaller every day. At the beginning, it was so big that I was afraid. I kept running and running, and I was glad when I saw walls far away to the right and to the left. But those long walls have narrowed so quickly that I am in the last chamber already, and there in the corner stands the trap that I must run into. You only need to change your direction," said the cat, and ate it up.
We turn to page 252 for the Torah service, starting with the Avinu Malkeinu, and we rise.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu,
Adonai Yivarech et Amo Shalom.
The Torah reading for today is Deuteronomy chapter 29, verses 9 through 14, and chapter 30, verses 1 through 20, and can be found on page 266. Our first aliyah will be chanted by Dan and Erika Berkowitz.
Yam du Rachmiel ben Avraham David ve'iv bat David aliyah rishona.
Barakhu Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem Rashechem shiftechem ziknechem v'shotrechem kol ish Yisrael tapechem nishechem וגרך אשר בקרב מחנך מחוטב עצך עד שואב ממך לעוברך בברית אדוני אלוהיך ובלעתו, אשר אדוני אלוהיך כורת עמך היום. למען הקימותך היום לא לעם, והוא יהיה לך לאלוהים כאשר דיבר לך, וכאשר נשבע לאבותיך, לאברהם, ליצחק וליעקב. ולא איתכם לבדכם אנוכי כורת את הברית הזאת ואת הלה הזאת. כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tachenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Our second aliyah will be chanted by Eileen Remor.
Tamod ora bat Avraham v'Sara lalia sherit.
Barakhu et Adonai Hamvorak.
Baruch Adonai
Le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bakar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
כי המצווה הזאת אשר אנוכי מצווך היום לא נפלטיב ממך ולא רחוקה היב, לא בשמיים היב לאמור. מי יעלה לנו השמיימה ויקחיה לנו, ישמיענו אותך ונעשנה, ולא מעבר לים היב לאמור. מי יעבור לנו אל עבר הים ויקחיה לנו, וישמיענו אותה ונעשנה. כי קרוב אליך הדבר מאוד, בפיך ובלבבך לעשותו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Our third and final aliyah will be chanted by Judy and Steve Ike.
Gamdo Eliyahu ben Baruch v'Hana Malka bat Avraham v'Shana Chana l'aliyah shlishit.
Barakhu es Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
אמן. ראה נתתי לפניך היום את החיים ואת הטוב ואת המוות ואת הרע, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום, לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך, ללכת בדרכיו, ולשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו ומשפטיו, וחיית ורבית, וברכך אדוני אלוהיך בארץ, אשר אתה בשמה לרשתה, ומפני לבבך ולא תשמע, ונידחת והשתחווית לאלוהים אחרים, ועבדתם הגדתי לכם היום, כי עבוד תעבדון. לא תאריכון ימים על אדמה, אשר אתה עובר את הירדן, לבוא שמה לרשתה. הידעתי בכם היום את השמיים ואת הארץ, החיים והמוות נתתי לפניך, הברכה והקללה, ובחרת בחיים, למען תחיה אתה וזרעך, לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך, לשמוע בקולו ולטוב קבו, כי הוא חייך ואורך ימיך, לשבת אדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיך, לאברהם, ליצחק וליעקב, לתת להם.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, notei haTorah.
Amen.
We turn to page 274 and we rise as we dress the Torah.
זאת התורה שעשה משה לפני בני ישראל. אני אדוני ביד
The Haftarah Reading, which is from Isaiah chapter 58, verses 1 through 14. You can find this on page 277. And our Haftarah blessings will be chanted by Tali Torres and Juan Mesa.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar בבנים טובים ורצה את דבריהם הנאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו ובישראל עמו ובבניי האמת וצדק.
קרא וגרון אל תחסוך, כשופר הרים קולך, והגד לעמי פשעם, ולבית יעקב חטאותם. ואותי יום יום ידרושון, ודעת דרכייך פצון. גגוי אשר צדקה עשה, ומשפט אלוהיו לא עזב. ישאלוני משפטי צדק, קרבת אלוהים יחפצון. למה צמנו ולא ראית, עינינו נפשנו ולא תדע. הן ביום צומכם תמצאו חפץ, וכל עטביכם תנגוסו. הן לריב ומצה תצומו, ולהכות באגרוף רשע. לא תצומו כיום, להשמיע במרום קולכם. החזה יהיה צום אבחרהו, יום ענות אדם נפשו. הלכוב כאגמון ראשו, ושק ואפר יציע. הלזה תקרא צום, ויום רצון לאדוני. הלא זה צום אבחרהו, פתח הרצובות רשע. התר אגודות מותר, ושלח רצוצים חופשים, וכל מותר תנתקו. הלא פרוס לרעב לחמך, ועניים מרודים תביא בית. כי תראה ערום וכיסיתו, ומבשרך לא תתעלם. אז יבקע כשחר אורך, וארוחתך מהרה תצמח. והלך לפניך צדקך, כבוד אדוני יאספך. אז תקרב אדוני יענך, תשבע ויאמר הנני. אם תסיר מתוכך מותם, שלח עצבה ודבר אבן, ותפק לרעב נפשך, ונפש נענה תשביע. וזרח בחושך אורך, ואפלתך כצהריים. ונחתך אדוני תמיד, והשביע בצחצחות נפשך. ועצמותיך יחליץ, והיית כגן רבן, וכמוצא מים אשר לא יכזבו מימיו. ובנו ממך חורבות עולם, מוסדי דור ודור תקומם. וקורא לך גודל פרץ, משובב נתיבות לשבת. אם תשיב משבת רגלך, עשות חפציך ביום קודשי. וקראת לשבת עונג, לקדוש אדוני מכובד. וכיבדתו מעשות דרכיך, ממצוא חפצך ודבר דבר. אז תתענג על אדוני בהרכבתיך על במותי הארץ והאכלתיך נחלת יעקב אביך כי פי אדוני דיבר.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם סור כל עולמים צדיק וכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ועושה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ונאמרים דבריך ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן וכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו ואל לובנת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון ובניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו ואליהו הנביא עבדך ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו. על כיסו לא ישב סהר ולא ימהלו עוד חברים את כבודו כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו שלא יקפח נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה ועל יום הזיכרון הזה שנתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לה ודברכים אותה יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ מקדש השבת בישראל ויום הזיכרון.
We turn to page 290 and we rise as we return the Torah to the Ark.
יהללו את שם אדוני כי נזכר שמו לבדו.
with the vidui, the confessional, at the bottom of page 292. Please be seated. We stand in humility, conscious of our failings. We set before you wrongs we have done. We trust in your compassion, for you know who we are. Shema Kolenu. Adonai, hear our call.
תקבל ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון את
Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. And when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. We rise.
Eloheinu ve'eloi avotenu v'imotenu tavo lefanecha tefilateinu ve'al titolam mithilatenu shenanachnu azefanim ukesheoref lefonecho Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avotenu tzadikim anachnu velo chatanu aval anachnu
Please be seated.
We continue with the Shabbat. Barakhu פשענו, צררנו, כיסינו עורף. רשענו, שיחקנו, היאבנו, הטעינו, הציתנו,
We continue on page 300.
על חטא שקטנו לפניך באונס וברצון, ועל חטא שקטנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים.
The ways we have wronged you under duress and by choice,
על חטא שקטנו לפניך בלי דעת, ועל חטא שקטנו לפניך בריצת רגליים להרע.
the ways we have wronged you through our thoughtlessness and harm we have caused in your world through impulsive acts of malice.
על חטא שקטנו לפניך בחוזק יד, ועל חטא שקטנו לפניך בלזול זלזול הורים ומורים.
The ways we have wronged you by abusing our power and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בקשיות עורף.
The ways we have wronged you by giving into our hostile impulses and harm we have caused in your world through inflexibility and stubbornness.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בכחש ובכזב, ועל חטא שקטנו לפניך בקלות ראש.
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit and harm we have caused in your world by making light of serious matters.
על חטא שקטנו לפניך בשיח שפתותינו, ועל חטא שקטנו לפניך בצרות עין.
The ways we have wronged you in our routine conversations and harm we have caused in your world through envy.
ועל כולם אנוש לבכות, סלח לנו וקל לנו, קבל לנו. ועל כולם
of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגלוי ובסתר, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בשנאת חינם.
The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by hating without cause.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בפריקת עול, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך במאכל ובמשתה.
The ways we have wronged you by losing self-control, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגילוי עריות, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך באימוץ הלב.
The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world by hardening our hearts.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בנשך ובמרבית, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך במשא ובמתן.
The the ways we have wronged you through greed and exploitation, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business.
על כן שקטן לפניך בהרהור הלב, ועל כן שקטן לפניך ברכילות.
The ways we have wronged you through our innermost thoughts, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
על כן שקטן לפניך בכפת שוחד, ועל כן שקטן לפניך ברכילות השם.
The ways we have wronged you by offering or accepting bribes, and harm we have caused in your world by profaning your name in public. Forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
So we have come to the end of this part of the service. The tradition is, and the theory is, it's one long prayer from Kol Nidre through Ne'ilah. So we don't end this service as you might expect. And in fact, we're not done. Those of you online, courses have already begun. Enjoy all the classes. And for the rest of us, don't forget, those of you who want to be here, we'll start at 3 with Yisker and then go straight through the afternoon service up to Ne'ilah. Those of you online, be with us at 3. And I expect that we'll finish by about 6:30 or 6:45. Somewhere around sundown, and I hope that for all of us, whether we see each other or not, that you have the rest of the fast, if you're fasting, to have an easy fast, and may this be a good year for all of us. Cantor Singer?
We conclude with a reprise of our favorite Hayom, which you can find on page 318, the Lipa Hayom, with Peter. So everybody, today's the day. Hayom Tamsenu. Hayom, Hayom Tamsenu. Hayom, Hayom Temorchenu. Hayom, Hayom Tegalenu, Amen, Hayom, Amen, Hayom Tidrushenu Letova, Hayom Tiktivenu L'Chayim Tovim, Hayom Tishma Shabbatenu, Amen, Hayom, Amen, Hayom Tikaner Rachamim, Uratzon et Tefilatenu, Hayom Titmechenu b'min Sedecha, Amen, Hayom, Amen, Hayom, Hayom Te'asenu, Hayom, Hayom Te'orchenu, Hayom, Hayom Te'gadlenu, Amen, Hayom, Amen, Amen, Hayom, Amen, Hayom.
Khatima Tova, may you be inscribed and sealed this year in the book of life.